We start the anime watching Dale kill a group of monsters, but he is left full of stinking remains, and then we see how he is able to use magic and invokes water to clean himself. Later, while resting, he is found by a demon girl. We see that the girl does not speak the same language as Dale. Dale then communicates using the language of the demons, and notices that the girl has a broken horn and then offers her food. Now Dale explains that demons who commit a crime have a horn removed and are banished, to which Dale wonders if she is alone. Then we see how he asks her very forcibly if she has someone to take care of her. Now we see how Dale tells her that after eating they are going to go, to which the girl takes him by the hand and tells him to go. And we confirm that Ragu is dead, and before dying, he forbade the girl to go near him because he would attract wild animals. Dale then uses magic to create a tomb for her, to which the girl thanks Dale, and then he introduces himself and tells her his name, which is Dale, and asks the girl's name, to which she answers that her name is Latina. Then Dale asks her if she wants to go with him. Latina accepts and they take the road to Cruz. Now we learn that Cruz is the second largest city in La Band while showing the place to Latina, and then arrive at the house of Dale, who lives in the attic of a bar. Now we know the owners of the bar, Rita, who serves customers, and Kenneth the cook. Returning with Dale, this asks Kenneth if he can use some hot water. This, somewhat surprised by the girl, agrees, and then Dale gives a bath to Latina, when Rita appears and tells him if she is an illegitimate daughter, to which Dale responds that she barely turned 18 and tells him that he found her in the forest with a dead demon who could be her father. We pass to see that Rita gave her clothes as a girl to Latina. Now we learn that Dale has been able to communicate with Latina, since the demonic language is the same language as the spells. Then Rita asks what he will do with Latina. He tells her that for now he will find out who she is. We go to the bar and the frequent customers are delighted with Latina, and then Rita tells Dale that there is no record of Latina or Ragu, which causes Dale to be surprised. Then Latina goes to eat and Rita asks him that now without information what he plans to do with her. But Dale leaves it for another day and goes with Latina to her room, and in an instant both fall asleep. The next day, Dale gets up because he will let Latina sleep longer, but noticing that he was leaving, Dale stops him. Then Dale explains that everything is fine and Latina calms down. Then they are called by Rita, who gives him 2 ribbons that cover Latina's horns. When Kenneth arrives with breakfast and Latina says good morning, which causes everyone to be surprised, and asks Dale in his language if he said it right, to which he says yes. Then Kenneth prepares and gives Latina a sweet. When they finish eating, Dale and Latina go shopping because Latina has no clothes. And then we learn from Rita and Kenneth that Dale is one of the best adventurers of Cruz, and we see how Dale buys everything he can for Latina. When he finishes shopping, Latina asks him if everything is okay, and then return to the restaurant. And after talking to Rita and thinking about it, he decides to adopt Latina, because despite being adventurous, Rita and Kenneth will take care of Latina when he goes on a trip. We go on to see Latina's memories, where Ragu tells her that the day she was born a big rainbow decorated the sky, and these are important for the world, since they are a sign from God. Later we see Latina waking up, who is distressed not to see Dale. Then we see Dale comment to Rita that he has to take his client to the area where he defeated the monsters, because as they stunk he did not bring any proof that he killed them. Rita tells him that they will take care of Latina when they are interrupted by a Latina's scream, which causes Dale to run to see her. And then we learn that Dale is obsessed with Latina and doesn't want to go to finish his work so as not to get away from her, to which Rita scolds him, since with that attitude he won't be able to take good care of her. Now we see how he tells Latina to wait for him here in demonic language, to which Latina answers that nothing happened. And then we see how Dale cries before saying goodbye to Latina, when Rita teaches him to say, "See you later," which causes Dale to be motivated to go to work. Returning to the bar, we see the usual customers until one notices that now hires his employees very young, and we happen to see Latina, who is slowly helping to pick up the dishes, which causes customers to worry and are aware of it, to which Kenneth responds by thanking Latina and prepares him a dessert. Already at dusk, Dale returns, who is greeted by Latina, to later Rita tell him that Latina helped them on the premises and prepared him that mashed potatoes. The following week we see something jealous Dale, after Kenneth is teaching Latina how to run the bar, and then we learn that Latina speaks much better, since every night Dale taught her with picture books. After Dale complains, the only important thing he says is that it was Latina's decision to help in the store, and then Kenneth goes to buy supplies and Latina accompanies him, and in the market Latina is distracted by a man who makes a rainbow and releases Kenneth, who realizes that he returns soon, but does not find Latina. We return to the bar and Kenneth tells Dale that Latina is lost, who gets upset and regrets not learning locator magic to later run to look for her. Then Rita offers a free drink tonight for anyone who helps find Latina, which causes Gilvester to tell the other customers that the drink does not taste good without the star of the place. Then Rita also offers a reward for whoever finds her, which causes all the customers to go looking for her. Returning with Latina, she meets a group of kids and they ask her where she is from, but she still has a hard time talking. When Latina tries to run away, she is stopped when she is saved by Chloe and then beating up the group of kids. When the fight is over, Latina says it's her fault for not speaking well and then cures Marcel with magic, which causes everyone to be surprised, and we learn that there are few who can use magic, and then Latina remembers that she doesn't know how to get back to Dale. Now the group of children ask her where she comes from, but Latina just tells them that she comes from the place with the striped cat. But one of the children knows about Kenneth and Rita's bar. Then we see how they look for Latina, but she is already on her way to the bar, when they are stopped by Gilvester, who is happy to see Latina. So the group of children tries to leave, but they are stopped by Gilvester, who tells them that, since they are accompanying her, they should go to Latina's house. We see how Latina apologizes to Kenneth, who is happy to see her well. Then we see how Rita rewards Latina's new friends. Then Latina apologizes to all the customers. Then Dale returns, which causes Latina to start crying and apologizes for not keeping her promise. Dale tells her that it's okay. He was just worried. In the night we see how Dale continues to teach Latina words when she sees a rainbow in the book and remembers what her father told her about rainbows. And we also hear how Raghu tells her to be happy and he will take care of her on the other side of the rainbow. Now we move on to learn that Dale has to travel to Osprich, the capital, and then we see how he complains because he will have to separate from Latina. But he is persuaded by Rita, who tells him that it is a perfect opportunity to buy him souvenirs from the capital. We move on to see how Dale leaves on his trip before dawn, but not before being seen off by Latina, who got up especially to say goodbye. Now we see Dale introduce himself to the boy who will take him to the capital, in a very somber way, which worries the boy during the trip, but it turns out that Dale is just thinking that he is going to take him to Latina when the boy offers him candy. Upon arrival, Dale gives it back and asks where he sells it when a carriage arrives to pick Dale up. Upon arriving at the castle, Dale meets with Gregor and tells him how long and if he could lend him his fiancée. To which Gregor asks him if he wants him to kill him, and he unsheathes his sword, and then explains that Rose is not his fiancée. Later we see that as soon as Dale arrives, he wants to go buy the souvenirs for Latina, and that is why he needs his fiancée. After catching up, Gregor explains that they found a servant of the Seven Demon King. Now we learn that despite being a nobleman, Gregor decided to use his skill with the sword, and we learn that his mother is the son of a duke. Already with the duke, he tells them the plan to send a small elite force against the servants of the Demon King, because he cannot send the army of the nation, because it would be like sending a declaration of war against the Demon King. In what we happen to see how they discuss the plan of attack in the forest, when they are interrupted by Dale, who tells them that he needs Latina and forms a scandal. We return to the bar and see Kenneth give a pie to one of his customers and tell him he will give him a discount, to which the customer tells him he looks a little rough, and we learn that Latina is the one preparing it, as she is learning to cook, which causes the customer to agree. Then we see how Latina is still practicing when Rudy arrives and tells Kenneth she got a good apprentice, to which Kenneth replies that he was always sorry to see her so lonely. Then we move on to see Kenneth memories, where he is encouraging Latina, when Latina asks him if it is okay to stay with Dale, since everyone rejected her since she was born and because Raghu stayed with her she died. Now after Kenneth asks who Raghu is, we confirm that he was Latina's father and he was the only one who said that she was not bad, and then says that Dale is someone very special to her, because despite not being family, he accompanies her and was the first to do so. Then Kenneth asks her if she told Dale, to which Latina says no because she doesn't want him to know, and after that Kenneth proposes to teach her how to cook. So we return to the present, where Rita tells us that father and daughter ended up as his apprentices because Kenneth taught Dale the basics when he was still a novice. When Chloe appears and reunited, this asks if she will go to school, which causes Rita to ask Latina's age to learn that she is 7 years old, and then Rita tells her that if she will go to school, which makes the girls happy. We return to Dale, who finds his targets and ambushes them to finish them off in an instant. And back at the bar we see that Latina's pies are already famous among the customers, to see how Latina brings the pies to the customers herself, to then see how Mr. Jill tells Latina that it's the best pie he's ever had, and she thanks him and leaves. We move on to see Dale, who is happy because he can go back to Latina, but is stopped by Gregor, who tells him that he has to wait for the banquet in the evening, to which Dale responds by throwing a tantrum. Already in the afternoon we see how Dale arrives at the bar calling Latina screaming, which leaves all the customers stunned, when Latina appears to welcome her, and together when Dale will give her a gift she goes to the kitchen, when Rita tells her that she was very brave in her absence, since she stayed in Dale's room because she felt safe in it, when Latina returns with the cake for Dale and is so moved that she does not want to eat it. Now we move on to see how a frequent customer complains because he is hurt, when Latina appears and notices that he is hurt, so she proceeds to heal him. Already at night Dale tells her that he was surprised that he can use magic, to which Latina replies that he can too, and then explains that the spells are recited in the demonic language and even humans have to be compatible to use them. We also learn that humans have magical potential, but cannot use it freely, so they created tools that control fire and water. Then Latina tells him that he never saw them until arriving in the city and asks why demons and humans do not get along, to which Dale evades the question by saying he does not know why, then asks Latina if she wants to learn more magic, and then teaches her ice magic. Already in the day we see Latina say goodbye, since she will go to school. Instantly Latina joins Chloe and they arrive at the school to then join her friends, but is interrupted by a girl who asks Latina if she is a demon, which Latina answers yes, and then Chloe asks her who she is, and so we learn the name of the girl Sylvia and insists on someday seeing Latina's horns, to which she agrees. When they are interrupted by the teacher who asks everyone to take a seat, now we see how Latina is intimidated by the teacher, but Chloe makes her come to her senses and so begins the class. As soon as the class begins we see that the teacher is not right in the head. We return to the bar where Latina prepared him an ice cream with the magic that she taught him, to later tell him that she made a new friend and wants to learn more magic to continue helping him. The next day we see how the teacher sees a horn of Latina and holds her by the hair, to then tell her that the abominations that live for centuries is nothing like humans, when she is saved by her classmates who lie to the teacher, but the damage is already done to the other teacher. Approach Latina, asks her what is the difference between demon and human, also what is that living century and why she is different. It is when the other teacher explains that at first glance they are not different, but the demons live twice as long as humans, and returning home Kenneth notices that Latina is not well, but she evades the question and runs to her room and she removes her right horn with the magic that Dale taught her, which causes her to faint. When Kenneth goes to see her after hearing the blow, already carrying Latina before taking her to the hospital, asks if anyone knows healing magic, to which a customer tells him that nothing more can have the hemorrhage to subsequently help Latina. Upon returning we see Dale arrive with Kenneth who takes care of Latina and he tells her that her life is not at risk. To later return to the bar, we pass to see how Latina wakes up to what Dale asks her why she took off her horn, and Latina crying tells him that she does not want something that marks her as a demon and wishes she had never had them. To later explain to Dale that she does not want to stay alone because her time is different and also only the people she met in the city have told her that she could stay with them and that they cared about her. Then Dale explains to her that even if she were human it is possible that she would die before her since she is older, and in her job as an adventurer she could die, and as she finishes she tells him that she is truly glad she met her and hopes to stay together until he dies. To which Latina replies that she is someone special to her and hopes to spend as much time as she can with Dale. The next day we see Dale arguing with the school principal, but this fails to do anything against Dale, who used his influence as one of the best adventurers in the kingdom to threaten the school and make them expel the teacher who assaulted Latina. At the end we see how Dale blames himself for the damage that was done Latina because she did not tell him the truth and taught him offensive magic. Arriving at the bar we see how Chloe beats Latina and tells her crying because she took off her horn. She also almost kills herself, which causes Latina to start crying and apologize to Chloe. And at night we see that they are celebrating because Latina is well, and before going down she tells the protagonist that she is happy and had forgotten that everyone at some point. We all say goodbye and then thank Dale for everything. And when we go down we see that she is celebrating for her recovery and Latina apologizes for having worried them and feels better, so she will return to work hard. Now recovered, Latina returns to her routine. Upon arriving at school we see how her friends discuss what to give Marcel's father because he does not know what to give him, when we learn that Sylvia gave him gloves with the logo of his family is important later. Returning to the bar, Latina asks Kenneth for help and then move on to see how Latina helps in the bar, and Kenneth tells Dale that she is talented. Apart we learn that Latina apparently before meeting Dale did not know how to do simple things. Dale asks Latina if they didn't teach her before things like how to clean with a rag or how to hold a knife, to which she replies that they said it was because she wasn't decided yet. Then Latina asks if she can stop by Chloe's house after school. The next day we see Dale arrive to be disappointed that Latina has not yet arrived, and we learn that she goes to Chloe's every day, to which Dale later becomes depressed and starts to cry. Now we learn that Chloe's family are renowned tailors in town, when we move on to see Latina who is learning to sew at Chloe's house after Joel's mom embarrasses her in front of Latina. We go back to the bar where we see Latina working and Dale saying that if she is not exploiting her as a joke. We learn that Kenneth is paying her, since she is working formally. Then we see how Jill tells Latina to snow soon, and we notice that two guys are watching Latina with the intention of kidnapping her to sell her, but when they realize that Jill sees them they run away. Then we see Dale still depressed wondering why Latina is working, when Latina appears and gives him a bag with a cat logo that she made for her birthday, to later see Dale thanking Latina. We also see what Latina asked Kenneth for, and we learn that she needed money for Dale's gift and that she is working as an apprentice. We also learn that one of Latina's goals is to cook as well as Kenneth. Returning to the present, we see how Dale shows off to everyone the bag that Latina gave him, in which Latina notices that it is snowing and is happy. The next day we see that Latina is still amazed with the snow, and then Dale takes her to play with the snow. The next day Dale says goodbye to Latina, as he has to go to work, and on the way there we see the two guys who want to kidnap Latina. We see Latina serving Jill and continuing to talk about the snow. After finishing her drink Jill leaves, but Latina finds her bag of money on the chair, which causes her to follow him to return it. After finding Jill and giving him his money, Latina proceeds to return to the bar when she is ambushed by the guys who want to kidnap her. Latina responds by running away, but stumbles as the floor is slippery because of the ice, and when all seemed lost, Jill appears, who is about to attack the kidnappers, but the guard appears who recognized Jill. After arresting the kidnappers, we learn that Cruz is the police lieutenant and Sylvia's father because of the gloves with the blue rose logo. We also learn that there is a black market that sells people of other races, and being rare we give them inhuman seats. Latina being a demon is a quoted target, and then Cruz said goodbye to Latina, in which we see Dale again who joins Latina and Jill who return to the bar. After a while, at the end of winter, we see Dale complaining about his coat because he can't mend it anymore, when Rita appears and we learn that the coat is from Dale's hometown, and then Rita gives him a letter that comes from Dale's hometown. Dale notices Rita looking pale, to which Rita avoids the subject, but she gets dizzy and almost falls. Then we see Rita in bed and Kenneth tells Dale that she is pregnant, who is happy and can't wait to tell Latina. After Rita rests for a while, she goes back to work and Dale tells them that now that they will have a baby, wouldn't it be better if he and Latina moved out? To which Kenneth replies that if she wants to leave, she can leave, but Latina stays, since it would be better to have her at the bar because she has been an exemplary employee during the last 6 months. Now is when we find out that Latina is still working and even has her own safe in the temple. Kenneth tells Dale that at this rate she will be able to pay for her own wedding, which upsets Dale. As Latina arrives, we notice that she has longer hair. Then we see how Dale explains to Latina that he has to travel to his hometown to fix his coat, and if he waits to travel as he had planned, he will not be able to help Kenneth and Rita when they will need it most because of the birth of the baby. To later ask Latina if she wants to accompany him on his trip, and Latina agrees to go on the trip, in which we see how Latina helps Kenneth when he asks if he can take the knife on his trip, to which Kenneth tells her that it is better to take a more versatile knife and offers to go with her to buy one. And that is when we learn that Rudy's family are Harimos because Latina goes to buy her knife at her blacksmith shop and they are attended by Ruby's father, who at first thought it was a joke that Latina wanted a knife, but when Kenneth explains this, shows her the knives he has for sale. After seeing how Latina finds it hard to choose her knife, Rudy appears with his brothers and they are surprised to see how Latina greets Rudy. Later she argues with Rudy and tells him that she is going on a trip and that is why she needs the knife, which upsets Rudy because he thinks that Latina is leaving town. When Kenneth asks her if she told her friends that she is going on a trip, to which Latina answers no, to be reprimanded by Kenneth, and then asks if a friend of hers disappeared. Suddenly she would not worry. After that, Latina tells him the details of her trip and that make Rudy calm down. Now we move on to see how Latina concretes her purchase, but Rudy's father wants to give her the knife, to which Latina refuses, since she goes with the intention of buying something with her own money, because as they always give her everything, she wanted to have something of her own, which causes Ruby's father to accept his money and offers to arrange the knife command for her. Now we move on to the school where Latina tells her friends about the trip, to which her friends say they will write her many letters when we see Chol wearing the horn that Latina took off as a pendant, in which we return to Dale, who doesn't know what equipment to buy Latina for the trip, when a blonde girl greets him and Dale meets her, and we learn that her name is Hellman, and apparently Dale doesn't like her very much. But she asks him for help with the shopping, which surprises Hellman, since it is unusual that he asks her out, and then blushes and laughs at Dale. Already in the store we see Dale animated buying, and we see that he avoids to tell her that the equipment is for Latina, because he lies to her saying that it is an order that he is doing. Already when finishing the purchases, Dale thanks Hellman because as she is a magician she knows what another magician needs, to what this one tells him that the next time he introduces her to the pretty magician that has him this way, to later continue bothering Dale a little more, to later say goodbye and to leave. When we see Dale ashamed and defeated on his knees, already initiated the trip, Latina realizes that they took another direction, for then Dale explains to him that they will pass by the tomb of Ragu, to what Latina thanks him for that and for visiting the tomb of Ragu constantly, since it is something that she should do it. When approaching more to the tomb of already in the forest, we see as Latina senses creatures near and takes his posture of combat, which surprises Dale, who in an instant later sees the creatures, and then Dale proceeds to attack from a distance with his bracelet that is a crossbow, and killing 2 creatures the others flee. And then Dale asks Latina if she already knew that the creatures were there, to which Latina answers that yes, because she could sense the danger. Then Dale asks her why, something that Latina doesn't even know, but she comments that Ragu told her that destiny would protect her. When analyzing the ability, Dale wonders if it is a providence, but for the moment she discards that possibility, when later on they run into a group of fish monsters, which makes Dale not want to fight because his body fluids stink. But we see how Latina casts an incantation on Dale, giving him a magic shield, and in an instant he kills all the fish monsters. When they arrive at Ragu's tomb, and after so long, Latina tells him everything that has happened and thanks Ragu. In the afternoon we see how Latina prepares the food, since Kenneth taught her how to prepare the campfire. When the food is ready, Dale tells her that he used to travel with Kenneth and it is better to travel with someone who knows how to cook, and already in the evening Dale tells her that he had many things to tell her, to which Latina affirms it and tells him that she told Regu not to worry and that she was happy. And so the trip will continue, passing through some cities of passage. When they rest in an inn, we see how they arrive at an inn, and before sleeping we see Latina writing a travel diary, which does not let even Dale see, to later ask Dale to sleep together, to which Dale responds by teaching magic that alters the gravity to Latina to roll a bed so they can sleep together, to later arrive at the port city Cavalli, which causes the astonishment of Latina because she had never been in a coastal city. Dale tells Latina that in Cavalli worship Azraq, the blue god patron of trade, and see that is why the city is decorated with blue patterns. Dale then shows the city to Latina when they finish the tour at night. He takes Latina to a restaurant, and to her surprise one of the artists wears a bracelet like Latina's, which makes Dale and Latina wonder if it is a demon. The next day we see Latina writing a letter to Chol about her trip through the city, when the waiter of yesterday appears and informs Dale that he can meet with the artist in the afternoon. Already in the meeting with the girl artist, Dale tries to ask the girl without telling her that Latina is a demon, but she interrupts him and tells him that she is a demon with a broken horn, to also ask for help because being a girl there are many things that she does not know. And then we learn that the bracelet is a gift from parents to children to remember their roots, and later we confirm that the girl is a demon, as she shows her horns to Dale and Latina. She then tells them that she was born in Vesuvius, the country led by the first demon king, and then tells them that she has never heard of demon children with broken horns, and also demons do not live together as a couple like humans and also find it difficult to conceive children. That's why they celebrate the births and give the baby a bracelet with his name engraved there. Is when the girl tells them her name Corrideras. Then Latina passes him a paper with what her bracelet says, and Corrideras translates it. We learn the full name of Regu, that is Sumragudi. Then Dale thinks that Latina could be born in the country of the first demon king Vesuvius, to which Corrideras responds that in the lands of the third and sixth demon king is not tradition of the bracelet. And then Dale gives us more information of the demon king. The third is known as the demon king of the sea and resides in the remote east and coexists with the Tritons. And the sixth demon king has a huge body and call it the giant demon king, also becomes servants to other demons while traveling without ever settling. Then Latina asks if the first demon king was not killed by the second demon queen, which amazes Dale and Corrideras, and the latter confirms that it was so and it happened a long time ago. When Corrideras finishes telling them, he notices the time and it must go, because he has to get ready for work. But before leaving, Latina asks about her husband, to which Corrideras tells her that he lived too long to be human, which saddens Latina, and asks her if they did not have children, but she replies that unfortunately it is very difficult for demons to have children, and it is even more difficult with a human. Later Latina asks him if he is glad to have met him, to which Corrideras says yes, and if he had children he would embrace them like her at this moment. Then we see how they resume the journey because they have not yet reached Dale's house, when they see cherry blossoms and take a break to eat when a beastman appears behind Latina. Then we see how he guides them to his village, and we learn that Joseph the beastman is Dale's relative, and we go to Joseph's house to learn that he has a wife and a daughter, which surprises Dale. Then Latina helps Joseph's wife to prepare the food, and we see how at lunch Joseph names an oracle of the priestess of Banafsagi, which causes Latina to get upset and she quickly denies it. Then already in bed Dale thinks about Banafsagi, and we learn that he is the god whose protection allows people to glimpse the future and questions if that is why Latina was expelled from her village. The next day Joseph goes hunting. Then we see how Maya approaches Latina and she begins to cry, to which he tells Latina that children are sensitive to the feelings of others, and if she wants to cry it is okay to do so, whether it is because of pain. Later, the villagers return from hunting and bring with them 2 wild boars, which causes Dale to be surprised because they are giants. Then in the afternoon we see how Latina tells Dale that she is afraid, since she is a bad girl, and that is why she cannot return to the place where she was born, and we learn that there is a prophecy that involves Latina, to which Latina's family denied it. But Latina then tells him that Regu stayed with her and that's why she died. Dale then asks if she remembers what the prophecy said, but Latina doesn't remember it. Dale then encourages Latina, saying that these things about prophecies are very complicated, but he believes that her family was right when they said that you were not bad. When they are interrupted by Maya and Latina goes to play with her. The next day they resume their journey with difficulties because Maya does not want to separate from Latina, and then we see how they are attacked by a group of bandits. But after fleeing from them we learn that they are people from Dale's village, and his family help them to ambush Dale, and then we learn that he is always received that way. Then Dale's parents are surprised because they knew he would be accompanied, but not by a girl. Then they have a meeting with his grandmother, who bothers Dale and asks about Latina, to which Dale replies that he found her. Then Latina introduces herself and tells him that she hopes not to bother him during his stay in the village, and then scolds the grandmother and Dale for the bad way they treat each other. At the end of the meeting Dale and Latina make up, and Latina asks him why his family is like that with him, to which Dale replies that they are worried about him, since the last time he passed through the village he was not feeling very well, and then they go on to talk to Dale's father, and Latina asks him how she should call him, to which he answers that father is well. Then they begin to talk about a wedding. What confuses Latina, when Dale's brother appears, and we learn that he is the one who will marry Friddle, who is the daughter of the chief of the neighboring village, and in the night Latina retires because she is sleepy. And all Dale's family tell her again that they are surprised that she raised such an educated girl. When finishing, Dale passes by Latina's room and goes to sleep. After a while she wakes up. She wakes up and finds Latina in a corner of the room, and when she sees Dale she runs to hug him because she is scared because she woke up and did not see Dale. Then she asks him to stay with her because she does not want to be alone. The next day Dale's mother wakes up Dale and Latina, to which Dale replies that she will ignore that image of him and that she is very wrong, to which Dale's father plays along, to which Dale later gives up and says that Latina is his only support. We go on to see Latina's friends who received another letter from her, and she tells them all about Dale's village, and then we see that she also sent a letter to Rita, where she tells them to take care of herself and the baby, and also sends greetings to Kenneth and the customers. Then we see how Dale's mother teaches Latina to cook new dishes. Then Dale's grandmother invites her to see how they train the dogs of the village, and Isabine gives a small dog to Latina. And then we see how Dale is hunting with his brother, and the latter tells him if he is sure he would rather not be in charge of the area, to which Dale answers no, since he is a recce and will keep this place safe from the outside. Apart, York will be the next leader, which causes York to look at him a little worried. We return to Dale's house and we see how it is time for dinner. We see how they argue a little, and we see how Dale has a talk alone with his father, and we learn that York feels guilty because he should be the recce and not Dale. But this changed because only someone with the blessings as Dale could negotiate with the Duke. We also learn that much of being able to overcome this change was thanks to Latina. Then we return to Latina and Dale asks her about the book he always has nearby, to which Latina replies that it is her diary and she is writing how happy she is now so as not to forget it, because someday when she has to leave them, or if someday they hate her, she can remember how happy she was at that moment. She also tells Dale that if at some point when she grows up she becomes bad, that he will scold her and tell her what she is doing wrong, because if he is the one who tells her, she will know that he is doing it for her own good. The next day we see how all the dogs in the village fall at Latina's feet, despite the fact that yesterday Dale's grandmother told her that they are not usually nice to people outside the village, which causes the astonishment of the grandmother and Isabine. Later Dale's grandmother offers to take her to a place she might like, but Latina could not tell anyone, which causes her to worry, but she ends up agreeing. It turns out that Dale's grandmother introduces her to a small magical beast that she seems to have been taking care of, and the next day when she goes to feed it, she is surprised by Dale, who scolds her, but is interrupted by the magical beast because it can talk. Then we learn that it is a mythical creature and they are not usually near human settlements. When he is interrupted by Latina, who tells him that her family lives nearby, and it turns out that there is a pack of mythical creatures. And then Latina explains that they are winged wolves and that they live here and only the village leaders know it. When they are interrupted by a winged wolf who tells them that they made a pact with the Teethrow in the distant past and it remains in force as long as no one breaks it, to later see how Latina also dominated the winged wolves, caressing them. And so we move to the night of the wedding and we see how everyone wears traditional clothes of the village. When the neighboring village appears bringing the bride, and the ceremony begins, Latina notices that Dale is not there and goes to look for him. When she finds him outside, she asks him if he is sad and encourages him. When we see how he thinks that he chose this path to defend the clan, to protect Teethrow, that's why he accepted the title of recce and chose to protect that place from outside. Then we see Dale's memories and we learn about all the agreements of Dale's village to stay independent. That's why Dale ended up being an empty soldier for him dude until he found Latina. Then we return to the present where Dale tells Latina that she saved him, before ending the chapter to return to celebrate with his family the wedding of his brother. Now we see Latina, who tells him with illustrations how is the city where she lives with Dale, and also tells him about Kenneth and Rita, who is pregnant, to which Grandma tells her that she should make him an amulet. Later she meets with Dale, who tells her that since her new coat is ready she can return with Kenneth and Rita, which saddens Latina a little, since she does not know how to say goodbye to Dale's family, to later ask her for help to make the amulet. Then we see how Latina begins to disdain the winged wolves, and the leader of these, when talking to Dale, gives him some of his fur, as this will scare away the weakest monsters. Then they say goodbye to the priest and his daughter, and the latter tells Dale that for Latina this changed since the last time he went through the village and learned what happened to Latina at school. When Latina returns with Clarissa, who gave her candy, to later return to the house of Dale's grandmother, who gives her a name with which she is now part of Dale's clan. The next day they start their trip back home. But before, we see how Latina says goodbye and thanks to the grandmother for the ribbons that she gave her, and then we see how the grandmother tells Dale that they use the fur of the winged wolves to make their sweaters and reinforce the village, and we also see how she gives Latina the ribbons that are made with the best fur of the winged wolf. When they resume their trip to Poop, they stop to visit Joseph again when they are interrupted by Maya, who throws herself on Latina. Then we see how they talk for a while until the night arrives and they have dinner, and we can see how Joseph and Dale make a plan to take Maya away from Latina because she plans to avoid Maya's scandal like the last time they said goodbye. But the plan fails because before dawn Maya got into Latina's bed and Latina is hugging her. Then they say goodbye, and so they arrive in Cavalli to later explore the city, and Latina buys souvenirs for her friends. When the pink princess appears, who Dale knows, since she is a friend of his, and tells Latina that he has heard a lot about her and no one else has pink hair like her, to then learn that it is due to her magical trait, that hair color, because Mr. Cornelius the priest taught her that those born with great magical aptitude have vibrant hair and eyes. Then Dale tells Latina that even though they call her a princess, she is the daughter of a local lord and is an important priestess of the Church of Neely, and then he asks Latina if she knows her magical aptitude, to which Latina answers that she does not know it and she does not stand out much in the magic, since her hair does not stand out as the one of the pink princess and also inherited the color of Ragu's hair. Besides, she tells him that Ragu was very skillful in the magic and she told him that she possessed a lot of it. Later Dale asks her how the ranks were in her homeland, to which Latina responds that purple hair, and so we see how they are already back in their city. After greeting Rita and Kenneth, we see how they resume their daily routine and all celebrate the return of Latina. The next day we see how Latina returns to school when she is surprised by Joel, who tells her that she misses her so much that she always had Latina's horn with her, but it has an oval shape, and we learn that it was Rudy who gave it that shape. Already in the classroom she is stopped by Sylvia, who keeps asking about things from the trip. Then they tell her how they stopped some bandits who were going to rob a transporter who came after them, and then she gives her memories to Joel and Sylvia. Then Latina's friends appear and Rudy blushes when he sees Latina, and they are interrupted by the teacher who starts the class. Then back to Dale, who also tells Kenneth about the bandits, when Rita appears to thank Dale for the amulet, and we learn that Dale is technically a priest. When we return to Latina, who is with her friends in her break time, she tells them more about her trip when she notices that Rudy has a fragment of his horn as a pendant and asks him why he has it, which Rudy embarrassed evades, saying that it is unusual and that is why he wears it, and Latina is the only one who believes him because everyone else realized that he lied. After school we see how Latina walks home with her friends, and we learn that Latina likes cats, but she can't make friends with them, when Sylvia tells her that she saw a meeting of cats and they usually meet at night. After that we see how Latina is in the clouds, because they only think about cats and causes all customers worry about her. When she approaches Dale he asks her what worries her, to which Latina tells her that she wants to see the meeting of cats, which causes Dale to imagine things, but in an instant Jill tells her that she doesn't need to go at night, since her neighbor is famous in the western area for having a lot of cats. To demos we learn his name is Gojo Shihisu and he is from a faraway country, and Dale, hearing his name, seems familiar, when Kenneth appears and tells him that during their generation he helped a lot of adventurers, to which Dale tells him that he believes that a man with that name attended his grandfather's funeral, and later we learn that Dale's grandfather was an adventurer before and that's why they may have met. The next day we see how they are already at Shibisu's house, and the latter is surprised to hear Dale's surname, which confirms that if he knew his grandfather and then tell him things about his grandfather's past, we do not learn that he was skilled with magic and sword, to later tell Shihisu tell him his story after retiring as an adventurer. He used his connections to become a merchant and this can get discounts to Dale. We also see from time to time Latina, who is still trying to get close to the cats, but they all avoid her. But then they start to discuss about the customs of their homelands. At last Latina manages to play with a cat, when a girl with a dress appears and Shihisu tells her, since they are here Latina could try on the dress, because one of the things they were discussing is that in Shihisu's lands they celebrate the health of young people of Latina's age. Later Shihisu tries to persuade Dale to help him to try to add new traditions to the temples of the city, which Dale tells him that not even with his inflation he could, but Shihisu replies that it doesn't have to be now and at the rate he is going he can achieve it in 10 years, and that if he can get a chapel to accept it, it is enough. To later sell the dress to Dale, because after all he is an old merchant. Already back in the bar he surprises everyone with his new outfit, when Rita tells Dale that it is not a bad tradition, since Latina will grow up soon, which makes Dale happy. And before the end of the chapter we see the winged wolves, and Latina's little friend misses her and wants to go see her. Now we see Latina talking to Rita and we see that she is already advanced in her pregnancy, to which Latina offers her one of her ribbons, but Rita rejects it, since she already has the amulet that she gave her, in which Latina tells her that a friend helped her to make the ribbons, and later Dale tells Kenneth that this friend is a magical beast and that they live next to Dale's native village. When Hellman appears, who observes and says that Latina's bows are well done, which causes Latina to become defensive, and then Dale asks her what she is doing here, to which Hellman tells her that she will be her next partner in her next job and that she will stay in the bar, which Dale tries to avoid, but it is useless, and we learn that he used to treat her very well, which makes Dale blush. And then Kenneth tells her that she hasn't changed a bit since she was a freshman, to which Hellman replies that in all that time he showed no interest in her. And then Kenneth tells her that he married the kind of woman he likes, when they are interrupted by Rita, who tells them that Latina is also a girl, to which Latina responds by hugging Dale and saying that everything will be fine while he works, since he will take care of her room. And we see how he wants to hug Latina, but is restrained by Hellman. Then the latter says goodbye, and then Latina asks if he knows her from work, to which Dale lies. But Latina realizes and tells him that she will soon grow up. We then move on to Dale's room and learn information about Dale's next job and that there is suspicious activity in nearby territories apart from Gregor escorting his father and brother while he takes care of the whole thing. Apart from another letter from Gregor's father, we learn that he will soon subdue the demons. Till later, Dale asks Latina if there is anything he can do to cheer her up, to which she responds in a very cold way that she is not upset, she is just focusing on her studies. Then, Dale goes down and talks to Kenneth while he drinks. Then Kenneth wonders if she is over Hellman, to which Dale responds that it's been a while. Then Latina appears and is still upset with Dale. At night we see how Hellman talks to Gilvester. Then we see how Latina is still tense because of Hellman, and then we see how the latter bothers Latina, saying that she should not hurry to grow up. Later, we move on to see Latina, who is meeting with her friends and tells them that Hellman will stay at the bar. Then her friends give support to Latina when Rudy appears to bother Latina, but it is not a good time and his joke does affect her. Then we move to the bar where Latina tells Kenneth that Raghu told her that she looks like Mobo, Latina's mother, which worries Latina, because Mobo had small breasts, which makes Kenneth uncomfortable and tries to convince Latina to talk about it with Rita, but she refuses, because she also has small breasts and the time I ask Mobo is almost tearing her cheeks. Also we learn from the image that Mobo is of high rank because her hair is a purple. Returning to Kenneth, this tells Latina that if she drinks more milk may help, or so they say. When we move on to see the little winged wolf who runs away from a bear, to then learn that he is being trained by Dale's grandmother, and this at the end of the training flees because he found the scent of Latina. When we return to Dale, who is in the bar depressed, because since Hellman arrived, Latina is not smiling as before, but is surprised by Hellman, and Dale asks if he will go out to see an ex-boyfriend, to which she asks if he would be jealous, and Dale replies that of course not, and then Hellman tells him that he just wants a beer. Later, Hellman gives her a piece of advice about the long-lived races, that the more she gets attached to Latina, the more painful the goodbye will be. The next day we see how Latina and her friends discuss what they will do after graduating, to which Joel says she will help her mother in the tailor's shop and Sylvia will go to Actor's Temple. Later Latina says goodbye because she will help Dale with his luggage because he will leave soon. When on the way she crosses Rudy, who apologizes for calling her a dwarf and drinks, to which Latina replies that it does not matter and asks what he and the boys will do after graduation, to which Rudy tells her that Marcel will work in the bakery of his parents and Anthony will continue studying, and then Rudy tells her that he will join the police because it is the only thing that could compete with an adventurer in this city. Later she asks Latina what she will do after graduation, but then we see Latina, who still complains that she wants to grow up fast, to which Dale tells her that tomorrow they will leave, since her mission will take her 1 or 2 months, and that's why he wants to take advantage of the day to go out with her, in which we see how they arrive at Raghu's grave and Dale asks her that, even if she dies before, Latina continues watching over her. The next day we see how he begins his journey with Hellman, in which we see how Rita and Kenneth's son is born, and the little winged wolf, Maya, and Joseph appear to see Latina and Dale also, in which we hear the thoughts of Latina, who wants to grow up soon to continue helping and giving back to her loved ones, because now she cannot do it because she is a child, but should be able to do it when she is older. And if the first season ends seeing how Latina and Dale are reunited at the end of their mission.